brings its factory to a rural area in Bangladesh, what they do is that all the local people working there are probably going to go to the factories. And what they're doing is they're destroying the pre-existing economy within that local area, right? They had an economy that actually was sustainable and people were able to do agriculture, they were able to do like night shops, or they were able to have markets, but they break that. And all of a sudden, they just randomly leave because they think it's not profitable. And there is a huge mess in that economy, right? We think that these corporations have the responsibility to at least compensate for the harm that they do to the economy and the local people so they could have a decent life. So in my speech, I'm mainly going to talk about three things. First, I'm going to talk about the context of today's debate. I'm going to talk about how these corporations are monopolizing that local areas and how that in itself is a reason to justify this motion. Second of all, I'm going to talk about how structural employment looks like. I'm going to talk about how it's extremely harmful for local people and how like taxation or other methods is not enough to compensate for this negative externality. Thirdly, I'm going to talk about what's going to happen after we take this motion. But before that, setups, right? So we think structural unemployment is not just like a small number of employment, but we think it's a massive amount of people who have nowhere to go, they have no jobs, and it's not easy to find one place because simply there's no other jobs available or whatnot, right? Second of all, we think that the money that corporations are going to give is probably going to be proportionate to the amount of harms that they give to the community, but we think that money is going to be given to local governments or local municipalities, and those governments are going to decide how to allocate the resources, right? So if these governments want to, for example, have more job training, then we're very happy to do that. If they want to invite new corporations with that, we're fine. If they're going to use it for welfare or like help NGOs, we think it's up to the municipalities to adjust to the context of that local areas. Thirdly, we think that this motion is going to take all over the world. So we think that it's going to happen all over the world. So first of all, what is the context of today's debate, right? We think that literally these corporations are breaking their pre-existing economies inside these areas and they're monopolizing that economy, right? We're talking about, for example, lots of MNCs, for example, H&M, Miyazawa, Johnson, or like Walmart, where they go to, for example, developing countries like Bangladesh, Thailand, but could also be in rural areas in developed countries like we see Walmart going to lots of rural areas in the United States, right? So how do they break current, how do this economy look like beforehand, right? We say it's not perfect, but we think their own locals have their own economy running, right? It could be agriculture, which they do, or it could be people selling those things like rice or things that they made to local shops or coffee shops, or people are employed at those shops, or there's like night markets or marketplaces where people can actually sell those kind of things. So we think to some extent people have this kind of, they make something and they sell it, or they buy something from specific shops, and we think there's that circulation of money within that place, right? So what does it look like when these corporations actually go inside this place? Firstly, obviously local people in that area are probably going to be employed, for example, by Walmart, and we think that what that means is that people who already were working at, for example, local coffee shops or like night markets will shift their jobs over there, right? But second of all, we think people in the community start heavily relying on these kind of corporations, right? For example, if you have Walmart in your local area, you don't have to go to every single shop to buy that. It's much more easier, it's much more faster, right? But the reason why this is harmful is because other corporations can't compete to that, right? Local shops or local jobs cannot compete with that, especially when these corporations they tend to buy the land within that community so they could build their own factories there. So or they actually lobby those politicians within that community so they could get low taxation, or they make it extremely difficult for other corporations from outside to actually come inside and to compete, and they dominate that kind of economy, right? We think this is analogous to the monopoly laws of how they are providing specific kind of harm to that community. We think it's justifiable regardless of the consequences, which I'm going to talk about how it's going to get better. We think that it's analogous to monopoly laws where it's justifiable to actually to restrict these kind of things and make them compensate. Sure.
Let's say if a company hires a person that there is a loss in that person, do you think we should compensate for that?
If it's one person, maybe like you give money when they leave. We think those kind of things is possible for that individual to reconstruct their lives. But we think when it's massive unemployment, it's simply not enough to just give a specific sum of money to a person, because you have to rebuild the entire economy, which I'm going to talk right now, of how structural unemployment looks like, right? Because if it's structural, it's not just giving a sum of money to a person will not be enough, right? Or taxation of corporation tax will not be enough, because they literally destroyed the entire economy and they can't go back, right? What they do is for example, these corporations buy the land, so people who used to do agriculture there cannot do that because it's not fertilized, or it's completely, they cannot not bring anything inside that because they make concrete over the lands, right? Or they don't have the materials to rebuild their shops because they sold that so that they could get a specific kind of jobs there, right? Or the infrastructure made within that community, we could see in lots of when the MNC goes to Africa or China, the infrastructure is made for that corporation. The roads or the electricity or the waters is made for that corporation to run, not for local shops to be able to get electricity or whatnot, right? So we think that it costs extremely lot of money, and when it's structural, we think that when you just give money to a specific person, it won't be enough, right? If the government wants to do welfare, it's going to take lots of money, right? We think this kind of unemployment also leads to more high crime rate, right? Where people have no jobs and they have nothing else to do, and that corporations leave, so there's not so much taxation in local governments. What they do is they tend to have lots of crimes increase, or there might be ethnic tension increasing, what we could see in Kenya when these actually corporations leave, right? And we think what they're doing is they're literally harming the environment within that, right? And we think even in the status quo, we, for example, have pollution tax, where corporations knowingly harm the pre-existing environment, they have to pay those, compensate for that. Or, for example, exit tax in Singapore, they have to compensate for that. So we think that corporations who actively harm these kind of pre-existing economy, we think that it's justified for them to pay that kind of money. So how is it going to change in our side of the house? Firstly, corporations have the option not to leave, and we're totally fine with that because people could get employed, they could have a stable income. Second of all, even if they do leave, we think they're going to change the way of how they leave. They're probably going to adjust the exit so there won't be a massive unemployment, right? They'll slowly start to retreat, and we think this is better because, for example, local governments could adjust to the unemployment and create, for example, new jobs, or it's much more easy for local corporations or local companies to actually adjust by getting new consumers or people being able to make their plans to change their jobs and whatnot, right? So we think in that kind of scenario, we still think if they're going to leave, they're probably going to do it in a way which doesn't harm the local economies. But thirdly, even if they do randomly leave, at least the local municipalities or governments have money to actually rebuild their economy and reconstruct people's lives. So we think in whichever kind of scenario, we think we make local people's lives much better, and we think that these corporations they harm that